I was sitting on my couch the other day rewatching Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for like the 100th time. And right when they get to that part about Nicholas Flamel and the elixir of life, it just hit me. We have been absolutely obsessed with the idea of cheating death since, well, probably since we realized death was a thing.
It's the ultimate human quest, isn't it? I mean, from the Ageless Elves and Lord of the Rings to Iron Man trying to figure out time travel in the Marvel Universe, we really don't like the idea of the party ending.
Exactly. But usually in those stories, immortality comes with a catch. You have to drink unicorn blood or you turn into a wraith.
Right. The cost of entry is usually pretty high in fiction.
Very high. But today we are pivoting away from the magic and looking at the manual. We have this massive, exhaustive literature survey in front of us, a real heavy hitter of a paper that tries to take longevity out of sci-fi speculation and drop it right into mechanism-driven science.
And that is such a huge shift. We aren't speculating about fountains of youth anymore. We're looking at them like engineering problems. This report basically dissects the biological gears that make us age and asks a really practical question. Can we jam those gears?
So welcome everyone to the Deep Dive Lab. Our mission today is pretty high stakes. We are dissecting this massive report on extending human lifespan to figure out what's hype, what's actually actionable, and what might keep us healthy until we're, say, 120.
And just to warn you, the scope here is incredibly wide. The source material covers everything from the really basic, like what's on your dinner plate, to the truly futuristic, we're talking zombie cells and literal genetic reprogramming.
It's a wild mix. But before we get to the how-tos, we have to establish the what. The report opens by basically taking a sledgehammer to the idea that aging is just wear and tear. Because I think most of us still think of the human body like an old car, right?
Yeah.
You drive it enough miles, the tread wears off, the transmission slips, and eventually it just stops.
That is the biggest misconception. It's an easy analogy, but biologically it's just wrong. Aging isn't just a passive accumulation of damage. It's a specific, active biological process. It's governed by what the authors call the 12 hallmarks of aging.
12 hallmarks. Okay, that sounds like a lot to memorize.
It is complex, but don't think of it as a checklist. Think of it more like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Or, if you're a fan of the Loki series, think of the timeline as this interconnected web.
Okay.
If you pull one thread, if you disrupt one of those timelines, the whole structure moves and changes with it.
I like the Loki visual. So it's a system failure, not just one part breaking down. How does the report break that down for us?
They categorize them into 3 buckets, just to make it manageable. First, you've got the primary hallmarks. These are the root causes of the damage.
Okay.
This includes things like genomic instability.
Which is basically our DNA getting scratched up over time, like a CD.
Exactly. Your structure manual gets smudged. This bucket also includes telomere attrition.
Right, telomeres. These are the protective caps on our chromosomes. People always say they're like the plastic tips on shoelaces.
That's the perfect analogy. When those tips fray, the shoelace unravels. When telomeres get too short, the cell senses danger, and it just stops dividing. So that's the primary bucket, the initial damage.
Got it.
Now that triggers the second bucket, the antagonistic hallmark.
Antagonistic? That sounds bad.
Well, it's actually the body trying to do good, but it sort of backfires. These are the body's responses to that initial damage. So it includes things like deregulated nutrient
I
sensing.
mean, what exactly?
Essentially, your cells get confused about how to process fuel because they're so stressed out over that DNA damage we just talked about.
So the body tries to fix the problem, but it just ends up making the whole system less efficient.
Precisely. It's a compensatory response that eventually becomes a problem itself.
Right.
And all of that leads us to the third bucket, the integrative hallmarks.
The grand finale.
It is. It's the system-level collapse. This is where you get chronic inflammation, what researchers call inflammaging, and dysbiosis, which is when the good bacteria in your gut just completely falls out of balance.
So root cause, confused reaction, and then total system failure. The silver lining here, if I'm understanding this web correctly, is that we don't necessarily have to treat 12 different things separately.
That is the key insight. Because it's a web, if you target one node, say, you figure out how to repair the telomeres, you often see a ripple effect that improves inflammation and nutrient sensing too.
It's a package deal.
It is. You fix the foundation, the roof stops leaking.
Okay, so we know the rules of the game now. Let's talk about how to cheat, or at least how to stay in the game longer. Segment 2, I'm calling the Hunger Games, because the first major intervention the report discusses is basically not eating.
Well, let's be precise. We're talking about caloric restriction, or CR, and the authors make it very clear. In the scientific literature, this is the absolute gold standard for longevity.
When we say gold standard, we're talking about animal data, mostly?
We're talking rigorous proof across the animal kingdom. Yeast, worms, flies, mice, monkeys. Across the board, simply reducing fuel intake is the most consistent way to extend life. The mouse data in this report is just staggering.
Yeah.
They highlight a study where mice that ate about 60% of their normal calories lived to be 34 months old.
And the control group, the mice that just ate whatever they wanted?
They only made it to 25 months. That's a 36% extension of life.
That's massive.
Right.
If you apply that math to a human, that's the difference between dying at 80 and living to, 110?
Theoretically, yes. But, and here's where the research gets really interesting, it's not about the weight loss.
Wait, really? I feel like we always assume the benefit comes from just carrying less mass around, less strain on the heart, all that.
Nope. And the report is very specific on this. In fact, the researchers noted that mice that lost too much weight actually died sooner from immune issues. The benefit comes from what they call metabolic constraint.
Metabolic constraint. Okay, let's unpack that.
When resources are scarce, your body shifts gears. It stops focusing on growth and reproduction, biologically expensive things, and shifts its focus to repair and efficiency. It enters survival mode.
So the goal is to trigger that survival mode without actually starving yourself into being frail.
That's the fine line you have to walk.
Which seems really hard. I mean, most people aren't going to cut their food by 40%. What about intermittent fasting? Everyone is doing that now. Does the report back that up as a good alternative?
It gives it a mixed review, let's say. It's a bit of a reality check. The report notes that intermittent fasting without reducing your total calories doesn't really extend lifespan to the same degree as continuous restriction.
So I can't just skip breakfast, eat a massive double cheeseburger for dinner, and expect to live to 150.
I'm afraid not. Total energy intake is the boss here. That said, the authors do note IF is great for things like insulin sensitivity and mitochondrial plasticity. It's fantastic for health span, staying healthy while you're alive. But for that raw, maximum lifespan extension, total calories matter more. Got it. Okay, there was one other dietary hack that seemed a bit more manageable, especially for the carnivores listening. Protein restriction.
Yes. Specifically, restricting an amino acid called methionine.
Which you find mostly in meat and eggs, right?
Correct. And the research shows restricting methionine can extend lifespan in rodents by 30 to 40%. It works by triggering this amino acid sensing pathway called GCN2.
GCN2?
Right. And triggering GCN2 basically tricks the body into that survival mode we talked about, but without you actually needing to cut total calories.
So you're hacking the system to think you're starving so it repairs itself even though you're full.
That's the idea.
Okay, eat less or trick your body into thinking you're eating less, but
yeah.
Let's be honest, most of us want a shortcut. So let's move to segment 3, the pill cabinet. Did this massive survey find a magic pill?
It found some very strong contenders. The headliner, at least in animal models, is a drug called rapamycin.
Which is not a new drug, right? This isn't some secret compound. Not at all. It's an FDA-approved immunosuppressant. It's usually given to organ transplant patients. But in the longevity world, it is a superstar. The report cites studies showing it extended life by 10 to 18% in mice.
And the really impressive part was when they started giving it.
Exactly. They started the treatment late in life, the equivalent of a human who's already 60 years old. And it still worked.
That is huge. It implies you don't have to start this stuff in your 20s. You haven't missed the boat if you're middle-aged.
Right.
So why aren't we all taking rapamycin?
Well, because of the immunosuppressant part. Rapamycin works by inhibiting a growth signal called mTORC1. Inhibiting growth is great for slowing aging, but in humans, suppressing your immune system leaves you open to all sorts of infections.
Right. Living to 120 isn't great if you die of pneumonia at 65 because your immune system was off.
Precisely. The report suggests the future is probably in second-generation versions of this drug compounds that can target the aging part without compromising our defenses.
Okay, what about the other one I see all over the place? Metformin. It's a diabetes drug, but I feel like half of Silicon Valley is taking it.
Metformin is fascinating because we see that diabetics taking it sometimes outlive non-diabetics.
Which makes absolutely no sense.
It doesn't. So the theory is that the drug is doing something protective about aging itself beyond just blood sugar control.
So should we all be on it?
We don't know for sure yet. And here's the frustrating part. There's a massive trial proposed called Tame Targeting Aging, with metformin designed to prove this. But the report points out it's currently stalled.
Let me guess. Money.
Money. Metformin is generic. It costs pennies. No big pharma company wants to fund a 40 or $70 million trial if they can't patent the result.
That is just incredibly depressing. Capitalism blocking the fountain of youth. Okay, quickly, one more. NAD plus boosters. This is the stuff sold as NMN or NR.
So think of NAD plus as the battery juice for your cells. As we age, our levels drop by about half. The logic is simple. Refill the tank, the car runs better.
And does the data back it up?
In mice, yes. The report cites that NMN extended female mouse lifespan by about 8.5%. In humans, we know it improves biomarkers like lowering cholesterol, but we don't have proof yet that it adds actual years to a human life. It's promising, but not a slam dunk.
Okay, let's ramp this up. We've done diet, we've done pills. Let's get into the stuff that feels like it's straight out of a movie. Segment 4, cellular and genetic engineering. This is where the report started giving me serious Walking Dead vibes.
Oh, you must be referring to senolytics.
The zombie hunters?
It is the perfect analogy. As we age, some of our cells stop dividing.
Yeah.
But they don't die, they just sit there, senescent, like zombies. And just like zombies, they harm the living. They spew out this toxic inflammatory cocktail called SATP onto their healthy neighbors.
Turning them into zombies, too.
Exactly, it's a cascade.
So how do you kill something that's already kind of dead?
With a class of drugs called senolytics. The report highlights a combination of dasatinib and quercetin, or D plus Q. These drugs specifically target and eliminate these zombie cells.
And this isn't just theoretical mouse stuff, is it?
No, this is moving fast. The report mentions a study in humans with kidney disease. A simple 3-day course of D plus Q significantly reduced these senescent cells. It's like sending in a tactical strike team.
A 3-day course. That is wild. Now, there was another villain mentioned that I hadn't heard of before, IL-11.
Yes, interleukin-11. If you want to sound smart at a dinner party, mention this one. The report flags IL-11 as a massive pro-aging factor. It drives inflammation and fibrosis, which is basically scarring in our tissues.
And when they blocked it in the lab.
When they blocked IL-11 in old mice, they extended their lifespan by roughly 25%.
Wow. That's almost as effective as the extreme starvation diet, but without the hunger.
Exactly. And because anti-IL-11 drugs are already entering clinical trials, the consensus in the report is that this could be the nearest term breakthrough for humans.
Okay, but for the ultimate sci-fi moment, we have to talk about the time machine. Epigenetic reprogramming. This is the Benjamin Button stuff.
This is definitely the most radical concept in the whole survey. It involves using what are called Yamanaka factors, a protein cocktail known as OSK, to literally reset the age of a cell. You're taking an old cell and reprogramming its DNA instructions to think it's young again.
And the stats on this were just, they were hard to believe.
They were.
Mm-hmm.
In a study on extremely old mice, this treatment extended their remaining lifespan by 109%.
109%. They doubled the time they had left.
They did. But, and it's a massive but, it is incredibly risky.
What's the catch?
The report warns that if you don't control this process perfectly, the cells can de-differentiate too much. They forget what kind of cell they are. They stop being skin or liver cells and can form teratomas. Basically, aggressive tumors.
So potential for immortality, but with a high risk of immediate cancer.
High risk, high reward.
Right.
We are playing with the source code of life here.
All right, let's bring it back to Earth for segment 5. Let's call it Vampires and Gym Rats. We can't do a longevity deep dive without talking about blood.
The vampire trope. This refers to parabiosis. In the lab, this involves surgically sewing a young mouse and an old mouse together so they share a circulatory system.
Which is just horrific.
It is gruesome, but the results were undeniable. The old mice rejuvenated, their muscles healed faster, their brains worked better.
So we need to start harvesting blood from teenagers. Please tell me the report says no.
Thankfully, no. And this is a really important nuance. Research from Irina and Michael Conboy suggests it might not be about adding magical young factors. It might be about removing the old toxic factors that accumulate in our blood.
Oh, so it's not a blood transfusion, it's an oil change.
Exactly. A procedure called plasmapheresis. You filter out the sludge of old proteins. It's a much more palatable idea than becoming a vampire.
Definitely prefer the oil change analogy.
Yeah.
Finally, for those of us who can't afford genetic reprogramming yet, there's the stuff we already know, the gym rat approach.
The reality check. Despite all the fancy drugs and gene editing, the report confirms that exercise remains the most validated intervention we have.
It's the magic pill that takes effort.
It really is. The stats are robust. 150 to 300 minutes of activity reduces cardiovascular mortality by around 30%. And vigorous activity, really getting your heart rate up, is even better.
And the mechanism isn't just strong muscles, right? It's cellular.
Correct. Exercise boosts mitochondria, your energy plants, and it clears out waste through a process called autophagy. It's the body's self-cleaning cycle.
And sleep.
Essential. Long-lived people tend to have strict sleep schedules. Your circadian rhythms regulate longevity genes like RSRT1. If you disrupt your sleep, you disrupt your genetic repair kits.
So no pulling all-nighters if you want to make it to 100.
I'm afraid not.
All right, let's wrap this up. We've covered a ton of ground, from starving mice to zombie cells. What does the survival kit look like based on this report?
If we boil this whole survey down, I see 3 tiers.
Yeah.
Tier 1 is caloric control, eating less overall or restricting specific proteins. That's key to turning on those survival modes.
Tier 2.
Clean house. This is the future. Clearing out zombie cells with senolytics and lowering chronic inflammation, maybe with those IL-11 blockers we talked about.
And Tier 3 is the basics.
The basics, exercise and sleep, they remain undefeated. You really can't biohack your way out of a sedentary lifestyle.
It really feels like a shift in how we even view medicine. We're not just fixing broken parts anymore.
It's a total paradigm shift. We're moving from treating diseases, which is basically playing whack-a-mole with cancer, heart failure, and diabetes, to treating aging. We're trying to fix the whole board so the moles never pop up in the first place.
That's a powerful way to put it. And the report had one last provocative thought. It mentioned the real key might be combining these things. Senolytics plus rapamycin plus exercise.
Right. If we can successfully combine these therapies, we might stop thinking of ourselves as patients waiting to get sick and start thinking of ourselves as maintenance projects, like a classic car that you keep running perfectly forever.
A maintenance project sounds a lot better than the alternative.
It certainly does.
Well, thank you all for visiting the Deep Dive Lab today. We hope this gives you some hope and maybe some motivation to go for a run while we wait for those anti-aging pills to hit the pharmacy.
And don't forget the broccoli.
Never forget the broccoli. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next dive. Who knows?
Yeah.
If you follow this advice, maybe we'll see you again in 150 years.
I'll put it on my calendar.
Take care, everyone.